Right now, National Guard troops are in Washington, D.C. They are joining D.C. police now under federal control on orders from President Trump. The troops were notified that they would be deployed until September 25th. Joining us this morning to discuss the legality of this move is our 9 News legal expert, Whitney Traylor. Whitney, good morning.
Good morning.
All right, so Trump said that he's taking control of the D.C. police. Can he do this?
Yes, I think he can. Under the Home Rule Act, he does have power to take control of the D.C. police, but it's for a limited time, either for 48 hours or 30 days. Beyond 30 days, he has to get congressional authorization. So right now, I think that is probably lawful for him to do so.
So what is the role, legally speaking, as you're talking about, of the National Guard in domestic deployment situations?
Right. Well, the National Guard, this is really interesting and super controversial because we never want to have our military forces in a domestic setting overseeing citizens. So it's a really limited role, but D.C. is unique because the National Guard is controlled by the governors, and of course, D.C. has no governor. So really, he does have more control over the National Guard in D.C., but they still have limited role per the Posse Comitatus Act of 1878. So that really forbids the military from civilian law enforcement.
Okay, you bring up an interesting point because we're talking about D.C. as far as this situation goes, but of course earlier this year we saw that the Trump administration deployed the National Guard to L.A.
Yes.
Of course, they were sued over that.
Yes.
That lawsuit actually just started playing out this week. What do we know about that case?
Yeah, so they were sued. Governor Newsom sued saying, hey, you've exceeded your authority under the 10th Amendment, and he won at the trial court level, but the Trump administration promptly appealed, and the appeals court ruled in favor of the Trump administration, saying, hey, you could do that. The lawsuit just started this week, and so this is going to have strong implications because this president has consolidated power in the executive branch, and this is a further example of that. So if he prevails in this case, I think it's going to be dangerous for the rest of the nation because that will give him precedent to do so. I think he's going to lose, though, because the National Guard, it really wasn't necessary. It was the first time in 60 years that the National Guard had been called out without the governor actually asking for it. And so the question is, hey, did he have the authority to do it? Because generally the National Guard is just there to either protect federal buildings or support law enforcement with things such as transportation and things like that. In LA, they definitely exceeded that, so I think we're going to see that play out in the lawsuit.
Okay, let's go back to the D.C. situation that's playing out right now. Looking ahead to this, what are some of the implications that we could see there?
Well, it's going to be interesting because, again, we're going to have precedent. So if I would be shocked if there wasn't a lawsuit related to this because the D.C. mayor, I mean, this is really questionable why he did this now because violent crime in D.C. is at a 30-year low. It went down 26% last year. The D.C. mayor said, hey, this is not necessary. So it seems really quite arbitrary to do so now. So I think we're going to see probably some litigation. A lot of people are saying, hey, if he really was concerned about crime, just bump up the police force. And the mayor is actually asking for and wanted, excuse me, 4,000 police officers. And so they're essentially underfunded, if you will. So we're going to see this lawsuit play out. Well, I suspect a lawsuit play out, and we'll see how that works between LA and DC.
Okay, real fast because we're about out of time, but you mentioned two different time thresholds, either 48 hours or 30 days. Are we anticipating 30 days in this situation?
Yes, we're anticipating 30 days, and I think in one of the press conferences, the president actually said the 30 days, but if it goes through September 25th, that's a little bit longer than 30 days, obviously, where we're at now. So he would have to get that congressional authority. But it's interesting because, again, this president has been completely unprecedented and found ways to do things bypassing Congress. For example, calling what's happening at the southern border an emergency, and then that allowed him to expand his powers without the need for Congress. So, you know, some people are saying, hey, this is a distraction from the Epstein files. Some people are saying, hey, this is an example of more of his sort of race baiting because he sent the National Guard into LA when it was brown people protesting. He sent National Guard when the George Floyd protest. protest, but he didn't during January 6th. And then here now in D.C., where there is no sort of ballooning of crime, and he's calling people thugs and saying, oh, it's completely unsafe. So
in this case, he's kind of more indicated it's a bit of a problem with the homeless population.
right, yeah.
All right, yeah.
So,
Well,
yep.
we'll see what happens. Whitney, thank you very much. We appreciate it.